Yesterday was the winter solstice, the darkest day of the year. And I didn't post a video. Not because I fell behind, not because I gave up, but because rest was the work. Astrology doesn't only teach us when to act, it teaches us when to pause. And retrogrades exist exactly for that reason. So today we are going to talk about, in my opinion, one of the most important and fundamental aspects of any wellness routine: rest. So if you want to know more, stick around. You definitely don't want to miss this. Hello, my loves. As always, I hope that this video finds you well and in excellent spirits. So, welcome to day 21 of my 31-day wellness and astrology series. So, this particular topic is extremely timely. And this is why I love working in tandem with spirit, because I get to understand that it's not just about constant productivity and, putting things out there and doing. Everything has a time and there's a cycle to everything. So, essentially, what I want to focus on with this particular video is rest, right? But interestingly enough, so I create, edit, and upload these videos daily. So I don't batch create these videos. Every day I get on the mic and I create these videos. And so yesterday was the winter solstice, and everything in my body, everything in my being was like, today is not the day for this. So I literally spent the day in bed, rewatching Sex and the City, and I don't want to say bed rotting because I hate that phrase, but just resting, recalibrating, reflecting even. And it hadn't even dawned on me that it was the winter solstice until like halfway through the day when I actually looked at my phone and I saw the date and I was like, wow, it's the winter solstice. It's a time for rest. My body was literally like, it is time for rest. And then I didn't even realize that the video for December 21st was all about rest. And the synchronicity is unmatched because that's just how the universe works. But it's more so a very important reminder that there is a time for everything, whether it's productivity, whether it's rest, whether it's brainstorming. Nature gives us the best possible schedule. So in today's video, we're talking about retrogrades and wellness, and why slowing down is not a setback, but a healing superpower. So at the time of recording this video, I believe we probably still have 2 or 3 planets retrograde. But this past fall, we had 5 planets retrograde at the same time. And it's like, the more you try to produce, the more you try to do, especially when we're experiencing a lot of retrogrades, the more you'll experience that most things don't really happen. Things feel sluggish, they're slow, they're delayed, and that's for a very good reason. Because in astrology, retrogrades mark periods of reflection, review, reassessment, recalibration, rest, and integration. Retrogrades turn energy inward. And much like everything else in this existence, there's cycles to everything. You can't have output without input and vice versa. And constantly being extroverted, constantly doing is not the way to go. Retrogrades ask us to stop pushing forward and start listening to what's been ignored. Now, going inward doesn't necessarily mean that you're doing a whole bunch of shadow work. It doesn't mean that you're meditating for 2 hours a day. It could literally just be quiet time. Retrogrades slow things down, not only for us to be intentional, but for us to take a look at the things that we've ignored. Just like, I don't know about you, but around this time of year, when things get super busy, when we're wrapping things up, it's like right before New Year's, I schedule a huge, like, deep clean of the house, right? Because from, I want to say, September to December, things tend to ramp up. You clean regularly, but you don't do that deep clean. And so things accumulate, right? And so that downtime, that wasteland that is between Christmas and New Year's, it's a great time to clean, declutter, prepare for a new fiscal year. And so it reminds us that it's a time to rest, but it's also a time to acknowledge what has been ignored. And so retrogrades are the perfect opportunity to recalibrate. And recalibration, along with rest, are definitely essential to a great wellness routine. So here's the cultural mismatch. We live in a culture that rewards constant output, consistency at all costs, pushing through exhaustion, and performing productivity. Now, if you're not new to this channel, especially if you've been here for the last couple of months, you'll know that I've been working on these series where I post a video every single day. I've been doing so since September 27th. And the Virgo sun in me is like, okay, this is great. We're on a great roll here. And then when I came to yesterday and my body was like, yeah, today is not the day. Like, today is a day of rest. The first thing I felt immediately was guilt. I was like, but I post every day. People are expecting a video every day. I should do this, even though I was tired, I was exhausted, and I just felt like I couldn't. My mind was like, no, but you should. That's definitely a product of our society. Now, don't get me wrong, retrogrades, rest, it's not necessarily an invitation to slack off and to not handle your responsibilities. There is definitely a place for work and diligent work at that. But rest has to be a part of the equation. So because of this societal conditioning to push through exhaustion and to work at all costs, when retrogrades do arrive, people feel like they're behind. They're frustrated because things aren't panning out. They're unmotivated. They're blocked. And most importantly, and I think most commonly, people feel guilty for resting. As a matter of fact, I was just having this conversation with my mom this morning about how, even especially as women, I think that when it comes to being at home, you always have to find something to do. You should always be tidying up this or doing that. And rest, especially in some cultures and households, it's like it's frowned upon. What do you mean you're resting? What do you mean you're just relaxing? Relaxing is extremely important. Rest is extremely important. But here's the thing, your body understands retrogrades instinctively. And this is something that I would love for you to pay attention to, particularly when there's obviously a Mercury retrograde. But even when we have Venus and Mars retrogrades, especially Mars retrograde, I want you to pay attention to what your body is telling you, because we are wired to rest. This is one of those things that even people have been talking about recently when it comes to winter. Clearly, especially if you're not new around here, you know that the real new year is when Aries season begins. That is the start of spring. Spring is when things start to bloom. Yet the fiscal new year starts in the dead of winter, when things are hibernating, when things have died, right? And so culturally, we are pushed to do the most at a time when very little should be done. Perhaps that could explain why many of our New Year's quote unquote resolutions don't stick. And again, if you're not new around here, you've definitely heard me say that the resolutions that you really wanted to make should have been made during Scorpio season. But that's another video for another day. But your body instinctively knows when it's hibernation time, when it's rest time. And during retrogrades, our bodies are just attuned to it. Yet our minds, and perhaps our consciousness says, no, keep going, Keep trying, do something new. When the retrograde is like, girl, I just kind of want you to take several seats. So I want you to remember that fatigue during retrogrades, it's not failure. It's not laziness. It's not, I'm not being productive. It's alignment. Rest, especially during retrogrades, is alignment. So now let's get into the retrogrades and specifically how retrogrades affect wellness. So when a planet goes retrograde, it's a call for us to go within. And sort of the work that we do when a planet goes retrograde depends on the topic that that planet governs. Okay? So when planets go retrograde, certain themes surface. So of course we begin with our all-time favorite, which is Mercury retrograde. And so during Mercury retrograde, issues and themes surrounding mental fatigue, nervous system sensitivity, communication, and ideas are likely to surface. And so Mercury retrograde really asks for you to rest mentally and reflect. Mental exhaustion is a real thing. And in society today, with so many distractions, mental exhaustion is prevalent, to say the least. And the fact that Mercury goes retrograde 3 to 4 times a year is a very good indication of the fact that you need regular and frequent mental rest. So use it as such. Now, Venus retrograde. Issues and themes surrounding emotional reassessment, self-worth recalibration, financial issues, relationship issues. Those are the things that come to the surface and that you should be reflecting on when Venus goes retrograde. And so during Venus retrograde, it's like the universe is asking you for gentleness and self-compassion. I'll dare even say not even just self-compassion, compassion for others, since Venus is the relationship planet, okay? And it's almost like what I'm hearing right now is, especially during Venus retrograde, give your relationships a rest. Relationships are one of those topics that we so heavily emphasize. We're either talking about getting into one or being in one and everything that kind of goes along with that. And this is not just about romantic relationships, right? When Venus is retrograde, it's like, just stop. It's not to say stop putting effort into your relationships, so stop putting so much emphasis on them. Give them a break, essentially. Next, we have Mars retrograde. And when Mars goes retrograde, this is one of those retrogrades. Now, it doesn't happen every year. It's basically every other year that Mars goes retrograde. But when it does, we definitely feel it viscerally because this retrograde literally has us feeling lethargic, has us feeling tired, unmotivated, right? It's literally the low energy retrograde. And so during Mars retrograde, we experience low energy. We experience frustration. Mars is the planet of initiation. And when Mars is retrograde, it is definitely not the time to start anything. Yet if you find yourself starting something during Mars retrograde, it's like having a car that's in park, but you still have your foot on the gas. The engine is revving, but you're not physically going anywhere. And so when Mars is retrograde, it really asks for rest, literal sleep, instead of trying to force things, instead of trying to do things. And then finally, we've got Saturn retrograde. And when Saturn retrograde comes up, and keep in mind, Saturn is retrograde for several months out of the year every year. The outer planets, I'll say from Jupiter on, spend several months retrograde. As a matter of fact, Pluto is retrograde for about 6 months every single year. Okay, so these outer planets, although they don't affect us as intensely as planets like Mercury, Venus, and Mars, those retrogrades are still important, obviously, and still affect us. But when Saturn goes retrograde, this is exhaustion around responsibility and pressure. Saturn is the school of hard knocks. Saturn is the task master. Saturn is the strict parent, the disciplinarian. And when we have shouldered too much, when we're too much in our routine, when we've got too much on our shoulders, Saturn retrograde gives you kind of a rest from your responsibilities. Now, it doesn't mean that you shirk them all together. It just means that you need to review your boundaries. You need to delegate, perhaps. Maybe you're shouldering responsibilities that are not yours to carry. Saturn retrograde gives you the opportunity for that. So the important thing that I want you to realize here is that retrogrades don't stop progress. And I think that's one of the big misconceptions when it comes to rest. Rest seems anti-progressive. It seems like if I'm resting and I'm not doing, I'm not moving forward. But imagine moving forward on fumes, moving forward in the wrong direction, right? That's even worse. You can move forward tired, right? It just makes getting to the finish line all the more harder. But if you're going in the wrong direction, that's even worse. Retrograde allows you to recalibrate. You know, like when you have the GPS on in the car and you have to take a detour or you end up going somewhere else, it recalibrates, it recalculates. That's what retrograde allows you to do. And so again, retrogrades don't stop progress. They redirect it inward. They get you right within. Rest is the universe's way of getting you right with yourself. So use it as such. So let's talk briefly about what happens when we resist slowing down, when we don't integrate rest into our wellness routine, when we constantly produce, constantly go, constantly give. When we fight retrogrades, and mind you, by fighting retrogrades, I mean not resting, not slowing down, not going within, trying to start new things, trying to do the most, okay? When we fight retrogrades, we experience a burnout, frustration, anger, and rage sometimes, emotional overwhelm, mental fog, irritability, and or loss of clarity. Because healing doesn't happen when we override signals. Remember what I said before, your body instinctively knows when it's time to rest. Your body instinctively knows when it's hibernation time, when it is retrograde time, again, when it's time to rest. And healing and progress does not happen when you override these natural signals. Healing happens when we respond to them. Think about when you're physically ill, right? Like when you have the common cold. Oftentimes we write it off as like, oh, it's just a cold. I'm still going to go to work. I'm still going to go to school. I'm still going to do my normal routine. And then what happens? You're dragging your ass and it takes you longer to heal. You can literally knock out a common cold in one day with the right herbs, hydration, and rest. If you were to take a day and just hydrate, medicate, and rest, I guarantee the following day you'll feel at least 50% better. And you can go back to being productive. But if you're still working, if you're still slogging through with sore throat, stuffy nose, God forbid a fever, you're going to be stuck with that cold for at least a week, if not longer. So that rest is vital to healing. And remember, slowing down isn't quitting. It's listening, and it is alignment. So now let's get into today's wellness tip, which is all about retrograde aligned self-care. Now, this wellness practice is not something that you have to do solely when it's retrograde, but when your body is instinctively telling you that it is time for rest, this is definitely a great wellness practice, okay? So step number 1, reduce output. Do less on purpose. Now, delegation is going to be your friend here. If you can delegate a responsibility or if you can postpone a responsibility, definitely do so. But you have to reduce output on purpose, okay? Step number 2, reflect instead of initiate. Just spend time thinking. Just spend time reflecting on what's important, what you're basically paying attention to what you're spending your energy on, what you're putting your effort toward. Reflect on all of those things. Step number 3. Now, this is the one that's probably the most challenging. Rest without guilt. Now, that could be sleeping for 12 hours. That could be binge watching, your favorite reality TV show all day. There's a time and a place for that. It's not only just about resting your body. Sometimes it's like resting your soul. And it's also about rejuvenating yourself. Like I said earlier, yesterday I literally stayed in bed and rewatched Sex and the City from season 1, episode 1. And when I tell you, it was like not only a wonderful trip down memory lane, it was just good for my spirit. And doing that without guilt is key. Step number 4, review your habits, routines, and commitments. Remember, part of the purpose of retrogrades is recalibration. So when you assess what you do on a daily basis, your routines, your obligations, and your responsibilities, and you're able to tweak them, you're able to improve upon them, that's one of the best ways to use retrograde energy. And then step number 5, let insight arrive naturally. One of the things I love about rest, and when you're not trying so hard, is that often that's when you get the best ideas. That's when you literally have the space to receive downloads of valuable information, of great ideas, ways you can improve, things that you could do, people that you can talk to. Rest helps facilitate that. So keep in mind that retrogrades heal through integration, not action. And that's why it's so important to rest, because the doing part, that's only half the equation. Action and integration go hand in hand, and rest and integration are synonymous. I want to name this clearly. I want this to be crystal clear. I didn't post on the winter solstice because rest was the alignment. Now, I know I need to take my own advice because I did feel guilty about resting for the entire day. And I know that's something I need to work on. But rest was literally the alignment. The solstice marks the return of the light, but it begins in stillness. Now, if you're unfamiliar with the winter solstice, it's December 21st of every year. And it is the longest night of the year, meaning that at least in the Northern Hemisphere, we have the shortest hours of daylight. But the spiritual significance of the solstice is that being that it is the day with the shortest amount of light, it's also the day where we begin to have, where we work towards the summer solstice, where we have the longest day of the year and we have the most light. So the solstice marks the return of the light. But the only reason why the light is returning is because we were devoid of the light. So slowing down didn't derail anything that I was doing. I think it strengthened it. Because let's be real, I'm going to keep it a buck with you right now. If I were to post a video yesterday, it would have been not my best work. I was extremely exhausted. And today I feel like $1,000,000. And hopefully that's reflected in this video. But again, I feel like that rest, it revitalized me. So if you've been feeling called to pause lately, that's not laziness. And if you're watching this during the holiday season, when I am recording this, that can be tough. There's parties, there's work to be wrapped up. If you're lucky enough to have blocked off these last 2 weeks of the year as vacation, good for you. I think that's the best use of the energy. But for many of us, we find that this is quite possibly one of the busiest seasons of the year. But if your body, if your soul is telling you, listen, we can't do the most right now, listen to that. There's a reason for that. It's not laziness. It's wisdom and it is alignment. And there's nothing better than alignment. There's nothing that speaks wellness more than alignment. All right, my loves, that's pretty much all I've got for you for this video. If you're interested in signing up for my signature natal chart experience, the blueprint, you can find the link to that in the description box below. If you haven't taken my self-care signature quiz yet, the link to that is in the description box below, so check that out. Thank you so much for tuning in, and I'll see you in my next video. Take care.